Usually it takes a minute or two for people to come on.
And the ads pop up before you're on anyway.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't know that. Okay, welcome back. We are here live, Rapid Fire Golf. Another Monday. We have a little audience for our first time here today for our Monday. You guys can see in the back, Jeremy and Denise. I'm here with Mr. Marty Nowicki. Marty was here today. We filmed a bunch of videos for YouTube and some different content. Marty is the owner of Impact Snap.
Yep.
And so we were doing a bunch of videos, and we'll talk about that here a little bit. I'm sure some of you guys have seen Marty's beautiful face before and have seen him a little bit in the Impact Snap. If not, you will see them in the videos. And he's kind enough to hang out for a little bit here with us for the live. So if we have some questions, we'll kind of bounce off of each other and answer them away. So for those of you who are new, Rapid Fire Golf, you just fire in your questions. We will answer them rapidly. For those of you that have been here before, obviously you can post up your questions whenever you're ready, and we will go through them. Mr. Bob, how much do you bench? I'm working on that. I'm increasing the bench over the winter time. I let it go down a little bit. Summer shreds, but we're gonna build back. We're gonna build back up here over the over the winter. Yeah, that's right, when it gets cold out. So hello. Quick pros and cons on early wrist set. Quick pros and cons on early wrist set.
So, boy, I've got my opinions. We did a video earlier where I'm a true believer that the first part of the golf swing, the rate that the club and the wrist are working at should be the same. So I would not want to see the wrist early set. I'm a big believer that if you learn how to turn properly, the shoulder, the wrist, the club head all move at the same rate. So the net change from setup to waist high is nothing.
Minimal. Yeah. And so Bob, if you watch the videos we do, and we've done some of these checkpoints for the PGA Tour pros, you know that I would say as a stock model that by the time the club gets even with the ground first parallel, if the camera angle is proper, you're trying to get the club head more or less in line with the hands, right? So both the directional standpoint and a hinge amount, most good players are here or slightly underneath that. Now, if you were going to err on either side of that, right, probably less motion compared to early, and not as much of the in or out component would be ideal.
Yeah, I think learning how to control that one feature is huge.
Yeah, and getting your body turning, upper body turning enough to be able to control
the wrist engaging, because once it engages, it twists, it turns, it
forget it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you got some timing involved.
Jason, what's up, man? How's it going? Brett, Harry, can you please comment on impact to finish? Some feelings would be appreciated. Yeah, we actually did a bunch of videos earlier on this from impact to finish, and sort of the moral of the story right from here is kind of the length of the arc.
Well, from impact, or lowercase letter y impact. So we said the tour players have a lot in common, or this is what they really have in common, is the impact position. And then right after impact, when the hands get to about waist high, we should see the distance from the shoulder to the end of the club maxed out.
Right.
Okay. What the average person is doing is they're changing that distance.
We won't mention any names for anyone in the back here, but
all right.
Yeah.
And basically, we want to be able to see this assembly at about waist high in the through swing. The bigger the radius, the more stable the club face is going to be.
And so we did a bunch of videos you guys will see about how to do that and how to train that in. And then also from impact to there, beyond the arms and hands, is really the rib cage motion, the pelvis kicking up.
Legs, absolutely.
And kind of allowing your body, right, to support that.
Help stabilize and support what the arms are trying to do.
So we've got a couple of videos on that topic specifically. We'll fire away. Josh, what's up? What's going on? Would it be okay if I send a video of one of my speed workouts? So if you're a member of CogornoGolf.com, or for those that haven't heard of that before, that's where you can send your videos in, and then I'll comment on those and give you guys feedback. CogornoGolf.com is what you want to check out. Roger, can't seem to keep my left arm straight on the backswing any drill. So I would say the biggest thing I see is lack of turn.
Or lack of spine extension. Remember how we talked about range of motion? If I turn back and my spine stays tilted forward too long, my arm can only go this high. But and if I go higher, it's going to bend. But if I take my spine and pelvis and get it into extension, boy, now my arm can stay longer forever for a longer period of time.
And so I would say one thing we see is that, right, if I go here, my delt runs out. If I stay flexed forward, I can go about here, and that's where my arm runs out, my delt.
As soon as we take the spine and extend it, boy, now the arm can go
I can go much longer. And so I would say, Brett, if you do turn enough, right, if I make a backswing and I have, let's say, 40 degrees of turn, in an effort to get my club to go far enough, I'm going to want to bend my arms and kind of narrow that radius during the backswing in combination with the flattening. So the way to get rid of that would be enough rotation, enough extension. You can do things like a ball between your arms, stuff like that, to help support that, but really you want to get your body motions working correctly to fix that. Or Roger, that was, I'm sorry. Paul, can you discuss connection between right hand and left hand in golf grip? So right hand, left hand in golf grip in terms of, we want to be able to keep the pressure between the left hand thumb and the kind of right hand pad.
Absolutely, and that's my next training.
Getting paid here, right? Yeah, this is nice, huh?
$1 bill. We sell them now for $19.95.
Love it.
And push the palm up.
You sell the dollars for $19.95?
Absolutely.
It's a smile like that business model.
And I don't want to be able to pull that out of it.
Oh, that's good. I haven't seen that. Okay.
The thumb doesn't really supply a lot of pressure, so we have pressure in the last 3 fingers of the left hand, last 3 fingers of the right hand.
Ooh.
Sometimes they're overlapping or interlocking, so the pinky doesn't apply pressure. But the
so if you can see
thumb, that connection is what helps stabilize the shaft when you make impact. So that palm is a pivotal role. If we see separation there, that dollar flies out. Well, this whole thing becomes less stable.
So for those of you interested, if you want to buy $1 for $19.95, we'll contact Marty after the show. Yeah, with discount code for that. I liked it. I haven't seen that before with the piece in between. I like that. Let's see. Was wondering what would be a good drill to get more depth in the backswing. So, I mean, I would say number one in terms of getting depth on the way back, it has to do with turn
and the order of turn.
Good. Yeah, let's talk about that.
If you turn your pelvis too soon,
yep,
I think it's harder to get depth.
Yep.
If you're talking depth as far as the amount that the shoulder goes behind the head,
and let's say hand,
or
arm,
hand path in.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
If it's hand path in, then I would get the chest turning without wrist cock.
Yep.
Because that allows the arms to start moving in, and then let the pelvis turn. Now the hands have a chance to get further behind the shoulder.
Yep.
And you've gotten more than a 90-degree turn.
So you're not going to get depth on the way back if you don't turn. Now, to make it the easiest, I like that feel a lot. If you were from here until kind of first parallel to feel the chest and the shoulders turning more, 30 to 15, yep, right? At first parallel, not a lot of hinge from here. And then continue and kind of kick in the pelvis rotation from there to the top to get the butt of the club, the lead arm deep enough. If you're someone who's chronically vertical with the arm and you want to go more, let's say on shoulder plane, you're also a lot of times gonna have to feel like your lead arm is lower or more across your chest, or your pec and your bicep have more connection as you work in. Like when I was more up to the top here and I wanted to get to here, in the beginning, it felt as though my arms were like kind of across my pec. Of course, I use video, right?
Sure.
I give myself feedback.
That same dollar or a glove and put it right under your pack.
Yeah, I love that.
Sell those too.
Yeah. $19.95.
But that there now you've got the arm lower.
Yeah. Yeah, love that. Love that. You need to turn your body to get depth. You need to turn your body to get depth. Let's see here. Any fixes on weight being too much on my toes through the swing, falling forward? So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, some general stuff.
Well, a lot of times weight too far on the toes, you're starting either too far bent forward or you're getting too far bent forward. I mean, balance points, when you turn, the weight should go to the inside back part of the trail heel.
Yep.
And the out and the toe of the lead foot.
Yep.
And then as you transition, that's actually reversing.
Yep.
So, I don't know where in our, golfing instruction where people started to keep the heel down, but if it goes up, then that puts the weight on that toe.
Yep.
As soon as you transition, boom, now the weight's, because the pelvis is turning, the weight's going back to the heel.
Yeah, and if you have some issues getting too far towards the toe, a lot of things that Marty mentioned, there's balance points, how much bend you have at address, right? There's going to be some things you could do in terms of how tall you are here or how bent over you are that can affect that. There's a lot of little minor pieces that could cause it. There could be some transition stuff like that, but hopefully that helps guide you there in the right direction. Would you please give a short theory on wrist release? Short theory? You have the impact snap?
Sure.
Here's a short theory on wrist release.
And I'll do it first for the club.
Yeah.
Basically, how I define release is releasing the angle between the arm and the shaft.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the angle we're trying to get out.
Got it.
The problem with golf is we have a flat surface trying to hit a round ball. So as I let that out, I have to do 2 other things to make sure that the face is square to where I'm swinging.
Yeah.
All right, and that would involve a little bit of flexion
and
some amount of supination.
Grip
dependent.
Grip dependent. Hopefully you guys hear that. So Marty has this impact snap. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, and it's got a little ball on the end of here, and it trains your wrist angles into your release, your impact position beautifully. The three things we've done videos on before that it trains in is during the downswing, right? We have the ulnar portion, we've got some amount of the flex portion, and we've got some amount of supination depending upon your grip pattern, right? If you've got a weaker grip pattern, you're probably going to need more flex, more supinate. If you've got a stronger grip pattern, you're going to probably need less flex, less supinate. So how you would train it with this impact snap here is I would take my normal setup position.
And just swing forward to my hand. Boom. If the ball hits the trail forearm,
That's
the
released.
wrists have achieved all the conditions. A lot of people are like, well, when do I release it? Well, again, you're releasing the angle between the forearm and the shaft.
Yep.
So as Eric swings that forward, we'll hear that little weight slide out. If the ball finishes anywhere other than there, then you've flipped it, rolled it, twisted it, did
Yeah,
whatever.
I like that.
Yeah, so that's the most stable form. And follow through, I simply define as the moment that both arms are straight, which is going to be at about waist high on the through swing.
So that's about as simple, I think, of theory on the wrist angles as we could do is perhaps purchase yourself a impact snap. You take it right out of your bag, do a couple of rehearsals with it, and then you start hitting little shots with it.
Disclose your code.
Yeah, that's right. EC Golf. Is that up and live and going? EC Golf?
Any minute.
Okay, it'll be live there shortly. EC Golf, you get a little discount code.
And where did they go? They just go to
Impact
Impact
Snap.
Snap, and we'll put a link
Impact
afterwards.
Snap.
We'll put a link after impactsnap.com, I think is where we'll be at. Let's see here. Bump and run shots. Any wrist set needed? Shoulder turn most important. I'm going to just go fast and say no wrist set for bump and runs. Is that fair?
No.
Okay. No wrist set for bump and runs. Frank, when does right side bend start on the downswing? So when you take a normal setup position, let's say here like this, I've got some amount of tilt side bend at address, right? When I go up from here to the top, from setup to the top of the swing, I'm getting rid of that right side bend and I'm replacing it with left side bend, which would be shoulder to hip, right? I'd be replacing with left side bend. Now I'm getting out of that left side bend and into right side bend in my early transition phases into my downswing pattern until I get back to neutral. Back to neutral is going to happen, depending upon the player, between about left arm parallel and last parallel, where the shoulders then go level, depending upon where your pelvis is at. And then from there is where the tilt starts to go back up and the extension and the follow through. Is that fair? Is that an A+?
A++.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. So early in the downswing, I guess would be like the one-liner. Ronald, need to do a better job of bracing, posting my left leg on the downswing while rotating better on the course. What are some good drills to do or feels for getting a stronger left leg brace?
Well, we did a couple videos on,
We did.
You know, how we turned. Basically, what you don't want to do, go ahead and take your backswing, Eric.
Yeah.
I'd say what you don't want to do is shift
Is
this
this.
way over.
Yeah.
Because now it's going to be hard to brace. The
No
first
turn.
move should actually be a turn
Yep.
of the femur, where now you can push off your right leg later.
Yep.
And that's when the left leg will straighten
From there.
and keep the pelvis turning.
And so we did a video earlier, Marty we were explaining sort of the body motion from the top of the backswing, the left shoulder, I'm hitting an iron here, left shoulder and my left hip are both going to go down and back and around as they start rotating. Now, if I do that, notice the upper part of my left leg here, that knee stays out in front of my hip a little bit. My hip is in line or on the inside part of my ankle. And then from here, I sort of push that right side to extend my pelvis and extend up into the follow through, right?
Yeah, make a backswing again, because a lot of your followers used live view golf.
Yes.
What we would,
Hopefully.
like in the old days, we would get taught to shift way over. And I'd say a more efficient way of doing it would be to turn first and then let your belt buckle hit the wall or the line or what have you.
Love that.
That way
I
we
lose
get the
that, yeah.
turn in there sooner.
I say all the time, if you took your setup and you put a wall outside the left foot here like this, the goal is belt buckle there,
Yeah.
right? Not left hip there.
Correct.
Love that.
Correct.
We're on this A++ again. A++. Shaft pointing between ball and toes at left arm parallel. You prefer toes, why, cons, and pros? So I don't prefer toes. What I would prefer, if I took my normal setup, if I'm hearing you right, is when I get to left arm parallel, if I drew a line down the shaft, the butt of the club on the ball line would be on plane. I would prefer the butt of the club to be on the ball line or about halfway between the ball and the toes, which would be a slightly more vertical shaft position for most people.
They are talking backswing or down?
I think backswing.
Okay.
but I'm not, maybe I read that wrong. I think backswing. Shaft pointing between the ball. Yeah, backswing. So listen, here's the deal, dude. If you're someone who goes like this, then for you, I would prefer the shaft to feel like it gets more vertical here, not out here, okay? But I would prefer from here, you hit a normal takeaway position, which I like club head in line with the hands. And then from there, my hands are gonna go in line with my right pec, right bicep. The lead arm is in some amount. And the butt of the club from there should be on or just inside ball line. Now, more towards the toes is getting more vertical. I would prefer that for most people than it being outside the ball line, only because if you get too low too early, a lot of times you're gonna get too steep in early transition. So I think more vertical if you're gonna lean in any direction, if you have enough depth.
Big time.
If you have enough depth. So that would be more normal. And we did that video of the pros there, and I drew the line down the shaft. They're almost all on or inside. And then there's a couple of guys who are a little outside that play well. Jason, I've been doing, oops, you guys are good this week. Got a lot of questions. Maybe it's Marty. I've been doing the 10-4 plain drill for the last month and have my drawback for the most part. That's a beautiful thing. It's a smart man. However, on my follow through, sometimes I hit the rod. What is this a sign of? Yeah, Jason, that's a hard one to say. So we do a 10-4 station where like they would put the alignment stick back here, and then one up here, and then kind of coming underneath this one and then to the right of it. So he's saying, hey, I run into the stick here on the way through. Right?
And he's turning, which is good.
Yeah, exactly. So it's usually a good thing if I'm getting under this one and hitting that stick.
Drawing the ball, we kind of want to get back to that stick.
That was just my next point, is like that 10-4 station of going under the early one and past the late one is really good in the beginning stages of exaggerating, right? Because a lot of you guys, I want you to go from slice to hook, not slice to perfect, slice to hook. And then learn to take the hook off, learn to pivot a little better, learn to get the wrist conditions and neutralize. So you might, if you're going underneath this back plane stick and you're hitting shots and rotating well and your wrist conditions are good, you should hit that follow through stick eventually once you neutralize. So I might even take that out, use just the back one. If you're hitting it solid, just roll from there. Thanks for the rapid fire session. Any drills that will help putting pace? So a lot of them. I think putting pace, practicing your putting and speed on the greens needs to be done on the greens, in my opinion, part one. You can do some things off the green if your stroke length and tempo are jacked up. You might be able to do a little bit of that. But, I mean, from a mechanical.
Couple simple things.
Yeah.
If we wanted to make it mechanical, face the camera.
Yep.
Take your stance, touch the top of your kneecaps, get as tall as you can, put your hands together. Do not move your pelvis or your legs, and just swing your arms back and forth. I think when people practice pace, if we measure the time it takes Eric to swing back and swing forward, and we put that to a metronome and had the exact same length every time, the ball's going to start producing the same distance every time. I think when people practice distance control on greens, don't go for a cup. See if you can take 4 balls and get them to all end up in the same spot. No cup. When you start going to a cup, use 1 ball just like you would playing golf.
Yeah.
So,
and I think for mechanical, what most would see is if you have speed control issues and it is mechanical, stroke length, backswing relative to follow through, and acceleration rate or tempo are important.
Yeah, big time. And
then the roll you get on the ball and how it rolls off the face becomes a factor. But I'd say even without that, getting the stroke length appropriate, avoiding a too short and over acceleration follow through or dramatic on the opposite side.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you want to, when I put you in that position, basically think of a swing set at a schoolyard. If it's going back X, it's only going through Y. It's never going back that far and going through this far.
Yeah, I'm not here to here. Right. Yeah.
Right. It's always proportionate to the length of the back.
On each side. And when you do same-ish length, it's easier to have the tempo and vice versa.
Yeah.
Versus if you're too short or too long, right? So thanks, Robert. Didn't hear your answer several weeks ago due to transmission problem. Why not take backswing back in shallowed plane rather than upright, then transition to shallow? So you can. So listen, you can do this. And here's the deal. I don't think Marty does either, care nearly as much about how you go back if you come down and through good, right? So if I looked at someone who had a goofy backswing and you watch their downswing and it's perfect, I'm not going to change any of that, right? I'm not changing that going back. So here's the deal. the things you do on the way back with the shaft and the forces you put into it influence what the shaft is going to do on the downswing. There's just no arguing that. If I want the shaft to shallow more, and it was just ridiculous, I would have the shaft a little more vertical. Now, that does not mean vertical like this. That means I have depth, okay? I have my hands and my lead arm deep enough, but as I'm going back, if my shaft's more here as I go back, it's easier for it to fall back underneath this way. The issue with guys like John Rahm, now there's no issue with John Rahm, but that sort of pattern would be if you get the shaft too far flat here, okay, even if you're deep enough, and you're a good player, you can get that right back down. It's fine. It doesn't make a difference. But if you go really flat here, what guys do is they'll get steep early then, and then they have to shallow out late, and then you usually have to compromise pivot and release pattern.
Yeah, big blocks, big hooks.
Big blocks, big hooks. So it's, again, if you can get the downswing either way, but if you go too flat on the way back, it's going to want to influence your early transition. Let's see here. Would you recommend bow of left wrist on downswing to help shallow shaft plane while rotating left hip? Would you recommend bow of left wrist to shallow downswing left hip?
That's kind of how, that's one of the things that Rahm would do. So
Yeah.
not only is he bowing, but his left arm is falling as his left hip is turning. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but
Yeah, we take that,
yeah,
right?
Well, I'll take that.
Yeah, I would say we would agree this, right? Depending upon your grip.
Yeah.
I would rather, and we would rather this be working towards flexing on the way down versus working towards extending.
Big time.
Right?
Big time.
So that's for sure.
And Rahm has a weaker grip.
Exactly. So if you have a weak grip and you have to flex this like him, like a Matt Wolf, like a Jordan Spieth,
Yep.
and you have a weaker grip, you have to curl that under on the way down to start squaring it up. And if you have a stronger grip pattern, you can get away with more extension here and have the face a little bit more here.
DJ's wrist goes from here to flat and then regains it.
Yeah.
So,
and you got great golfers who are here at the top and then they curl it on their way down. So definitely more towards bow than extended.
definitely.
All right. Okay. So got a little sneezer over here. Let's see. How does Jim Furyk hit it so well? I got a couple thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we did the video on the stability of the face going through impact.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's square or slightly down at a last parallel, square, and then he's turned as much as anybody. So there is
Exactly.
the club face is not rotating for about a 5-foot radius of the club traveling. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a club face that's not rotating and you're roughly on plane, you are going to hit a lot of straight shots.
It's as simple as that. He has his face very square to the arc, right? Quote unquote.
Demonstrate that.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just swing it back to first parallel, and I'll just lay the stick down like we did earlier.
Yep.
So that club face is at 90 degrees to the plane it's swinging on, or to the arc that it's swinging on.
Exactly.
So from there, Furyk literally turns more than anybody.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Where the face isn't changing.
It's not going to move.
Yeah.
And so his face stays really square to the arc. Now he's got this loop deal, right? He goes up, but what else?
Vertical and then shallow.
He shallows it. Now his trail arm and hands and all this, his elbow can be a little bit behind him, a la like a Rory sometimes. And so when his trail arm and he gets more behind him this way, he's got to turn and open even more. If you look at him, he's like one of the most open guys at impact on tour.
Yeah.
He's got the face really stable and he shallows the club well.
Yeah.
So that's a recipe for success.
71 million in earnings.
Yes, right. We take the bank account too, all of us. Chris, what's up? During a prior live chat, I had a driver slice. You suggested moving the path with some sticks and side bend. Worked like a charm. Shot my personal best 84. Excellent. Beautiful. Uh-oh, but now I'm having some bleed over. I 10 overdraws with my irons and shorter clubs. Should I be working on different feels for mid to short irons than driver, or am I creating too much complexity? So I think here's the key here. There's micro answers to that, and then there's big picture answers to that. The big picture is if you're a golfer who hits a slice, you need to learn how to hit a draw, and I think hook. And you can ride that, which like I still do that, right? You can ride a hook pattern to elite golf.
Yeah.
Right?
You can. Kenny Perry.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Lehman, right? Yeah. And so the issue is if we just did this, on a live, you've just kind of fixed your slice. And so I wouldn't be in a rush to take the hook off. I'm not saying hook it forever.
No.
But
but that's a progression you have to go through to become a good player.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, you want to be able to then ultimately curve it both ways on command.
Right.
And that's where you have to be very familiar with the little details.
Yeah, and find middles.
Yeah.
And I think you and I, if we looked at him, would explain maybe in detail what the differences are of the iron and driver and correct it.
Yeah.
But in the beginning,
and a lot of people that overhook it, they tend to start the ball too far left and then it hooks. So maybe it could be as simple as a ball position issue.
start line issue. Yeah, exactly. So I just, Chris, I hear you. If that continues on for a long period of time, maybe learn how to pull it back a little bit, but I also wouldn't rush to fix that shot pattern. Ron, in between my golf swing on the course and my new OptiShot 2 golf monitor, I notice I'm always open at impact. Could it be my grip or any ideas trying everything to correct? So if the face is open, I would always check grip first.
Yeah.
I would check grip first. And so make sure that the grip pattern's neutral. We have some other videos on that. And then I would check wrist conditions, right? I would check arm rotation.
Yeah.
And I would kind of start there.
Yeah. Club face is always number one.
I would probably get something like this to be able to confirm my feels and work with little short shots. And after the grip is on there, correct, right? So if, Ron, if you send a video in, let's say you did the CogornoGolf.com deal or you work with Marty or any of us in person, and we would check that, we would for sure check your grip first. And then we would check probably where the face is on the way back and then kind of where the face is on the way through. And that would be wrist angles and arm rotation. So if it was like, hey, Eric, life on the line, you got to make me close my face, what would I do? I would make sure the grip pattern's on there neutral. So just like, let's say V's to kind of trail collarbone, just to keep things simple. I would make sure the face was square to the arc on the way back, so tilted down some amount. I would make sure on the way down and through you had at least flat to bow, and then I would add some supination depending upon your grip pattern. Even if you hit some left in the beginning and overdid some of those,
you'll draw the ball.
Draw, exactly. And then you can pull back.
Exactly.
And then you can pull back. Would you do a similar process to that? Grip, kind of face?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Grip face, get it going left, and then put a stick out and say, okay, what do we have to do to hit to the right of the stick? And so that we hit push and draws.
Yeah, we're on the same, we're on the same page with a lot of things. Yeah, you'd go left. You'd be okay with left first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Let's see. Can you talk about right elbow and hand position at P6? Shaft parallel. Often amateurs trail elbow is disconnected from the body. Yeah, it's something that I have an issue with sometimes as I come in with my trail shoulder, which part of that's thoracic for me, or at least that's what I blame it on. So arms and club at P6, right? Yep. So if I go, let's just go up to the top first, and then I'm starting to come back down here and get kind of neutral.
We could see a lot of different things. You can see a DJ whose elbow is up and is bent more and in
this
front.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is why I don't hit it like DJ.
DJ.
Yeah.
So here's Furyk.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then to varying degrees, Rory's elbow tends to start straightening right around here.
Yep.
Where by the time he hits it, there's only a little bit of bend there, and then it's like straight right after impact.
Yeah,
Zach
exactly.
Johnson would also be like that too.
Yep.
So, is there one
Depends,
way?
Right?
Yeah. Zach Johnson's arm is a little straighter and a little bit away from his body.
Yep.
Whereas DJ's is kind of like bent a lot
more underneath
in front of his body,
Yeah.
But I would say most people, when you're trying to do that, try to keep this try to keep the armpit connected, because now the elbow is limited with where it can go.
Yeah, exactly. And it depends a little on if you hit where your shoulder's at, internally or externally rotated, right? So if I have a Dustin Johnson who has a trail shoulder, more of an external rotation condition, that my elbow is going to be more kind of in front of my body, right? If I were to internally rotate my shoulder, now my elbow is more back here, like so, right? This will be more of a Jim Furyk model. Now for me, with my arm back this way, I have to turn and open a ridiculous amount to get the handle forward. If I have a Dustin Johnson kind of externally rotated position here, like so, with less arm rotation, then that's super easy for me to have the handle transported forward, right?
Absolutely.
And so now you're also going to be losing bend, okay? So like if my right arm at the top of my swing is 90 degrees, that's for the girls. If my arm's 90 degrees at the top like this, my arm is widening as I do my downswing. My arm is not going this way as I work down. I'm not going from here to a narrower relative to my torso angle. My trail arm, it depends on who you're looking at, but my trail arm also, as I'm doing that, from the players that we look at, the arm here is certainly longer, right? On a stock model, the arm is longer than it was at the top for most players.
Yeah.
The arm has lengthened, and then where the elbow is in space and the wrist conditions depends on grip, right? Depends on different body angles. So hopefully that helps a little bit. in terms of that. Let's see here. Struggling with my driver, I seem to be hitting down instead of hitting up. So when I hit the driver, I get a lot of pop-ups and hitting to the top of the driver. So we did an awesome video on this today that'll come out. I would say start with the setup.
Setup,
right?
ball position.
So if we were to go this way,
Driver.
yeah. So if I were to do kind of ball position this way,
Yep. And just put a stick out so you have familiarity with where your ball position is.
kind of inside left foot type
Yep.
of foot type of deal, right?
And then one simple thing is, yeah,
The hand.
take the right hand off the club and touch the side of your right knee. What that does is that'll get you further behind. So,
Gives me the tilt, yeah.
So why would they pop it up? Yeah, because your spine is actually
Yeah.
bending the wrong direction, which gets the club swinging downward rather than upward.
And really we'd have to, I mean, that could be setup, that could be backswing,
It
could be
could be,
downswing.
yeah.
But to set up for six, we would want them to get this in here. So if you can see this, guys, here, Marty had me put my hand on my leg, which is really good. And I get my right fingertips down about even with my knee. And you see when I do that, that gives me the tilt here, head and kind of off that line, right? And then when we work back there, I just want them to see my hand there. And so when we work like this, I add that piece in. When I go up to the top, I'm kind of centered behind it, like we said. And then there's almost that wall there on my head and my left shoulder. As that's staying there, as I'm starting to open things up, my head and my body line, see, like that's so good for me because I don't normally do that. So you see, notice how when we do that, my head and my back are sort of on that wall and staying back behind it. I'm not pressing into his hand or my head moving too far forward, right?
Which is setting you up to swing up into something.
Yeah.
Pop-ups happen because the face is too shot and or you're swinging down on it.
Simple. Simple, simple, simple. Simple in theory, not always in application. Let's see here. Any tips to hit up with the driver without leaving too much weight on the right leg? So I'd say the setup pieces we just talked about, right? Without leaving too much weight on the right leg.
Which that could be subject to another video because I see a lot of guys, Patrick Reed, Justin Thomas. There are a lot of guys that are Scott Stallings who bombs it. His right leg's still on the ground. The left foot's actually in the air.
Yeah.
Which is actually going to help you swing up on it.
It might not be the worst thing in the world.
It might not be the worst thing in the world to have a little weight back there while you're turning and have the push come later.
And I would say the push at the end
Yeah.
would be the piece kind of right to like get off.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but it's, you know, Stallings and Reed, their foot is literally in the air as they're making contact.
yeah. So a lot of, and I have had some guys that hit it and gals that hit the farthest where their pressure isn't as far forward always and or even back a little.
Correct.
The key then is going to be for most of you is if you stay semi-neutral from here, like we were doing, I'm not going this way, I'm staying neutral here, then from about halfway down in the follow through, then, right, I'm going to get this, I'm going to push up off my trail side, I'm going to extend from there into the follow through pieces. But in terms of hitting up, it may not be the worst thing to be a little back.
I agree.
Be a little bit back. And you'll see a lot of really good drivers of the golf ball. If you look at their torso when they get, especially older guys, their angle of their body is almost more back. Like if you look like an old school Jack Nicklaus, some of those guys, their angle is more back this way. A lot of them are not as kind of forward and up, right? Yeah. Let's see here. You having fun yet with this still? Okay, cool. Thanks for doing these videos. You are very welcome. My question, there's a debate. Okay, good. About the separation between hitters and swingers. What is your take on this regarding swing tips and instruction?
Well, golfing machine. If you break down the golfing machine, me being a right-handed golfer, a swinger would be defined as someone controlling the club with the left hand, whereas a hitter would be someone that's really using their right arm. And I think to develop as a golfer, you have to learn to do both and have them work together.
Yeah.
Hence the dollar bill against your thumb earlier.
For 1995.
That's the golfing machine defined that 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Homer Kelly's book, and Lee Trevino would be a hitter of the ball, where his right side is doing more of the work. Whereas a Davis Love would be more of a swinger of, where it's much more lead arm. But he grew up holding that thing up here and literally hitting one arm shots because his father told him to do that.
So just kind of different patterns.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, different feels. And different styles, but they're both can produce good golf.
Yeah,
great golf.
Yeah, love it. Keep it as simple as that. Sorry, we get some track practice in the back. That's real serious. Let's see. Easiest drill for flat. What's the easiest drill for flattening the left wrist at the top of the backswing? So I think there's a lot of ways to do this. Obviously, in videos in the past, I don't know if you do anything for that, but
sure you can.
So if we, in videos of the past, we would do, something like a hanger. You can put something inside your left hand at the top to feel those sort of things.
Yeah, if you just took your normal backswing,
Yeah.
I'll take that. And a normal backswing with the impact snap, so swing it all the way back, the ball will not be near the forearm. But if I said, okay, Eric, we're going to leave your hands there. Now I want to get you to get the ball to hit your forearm right there without moving your arm. Go ahead and do it. What's your wrist doing? Starting to uncock and flatten.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
So I mean,
if I go,
that's one way of just getting a feel. You don't. I wouldn't per se. I don't mind the wrist cocking,
I
the
gotcha.
ball being separated, but to get the feel of that hitting earlier. Now, when you swing down and through, you'll feel your follow through really go around.
And I think for a lot of people, correlating what the feel there is, which is like the more I hinge this on the way back this way, the more I'm usually going to be cupped or not flat.
Yeah.
In general, right?
Yeah.
And if I take my lead wrist from a cup condition and I were to unhinge that and work towards ulnar, right? There's a correlation there between my flat.
The wrist cannot be cocked.
Yep.
All right, and flexed at the same time. It has to be uncocked in order to flex.
Say that one more time.
So
slow.
the wrist cannot be cocked and flexed. So there's cocking. And when it cocks, it's normal for it to go into extension. It cannot be cocked and flexed or bowed at the same time.
I'm going to say that one more time. The wrist cannot be cocked or overhinged here, hinged in general, and flexed at the same time, which is not only applicable to the top of the backswing, but if I want to work during my downswing and or during my impact position, for all of you guys that want to feel like you maintain this angle forever, well, part of the issue there is what happens with my wrist condition when I do that, right? More towards cupped.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of people might
It's a
say,
video
well,
we should have done.
Well, geez, DJ, he's got this big angle at the top and his wrist is flexed. Well, okay, if I start like this and I move into extension, I'm still creating the angle between the forearm and the shaft.
Bingo.
Whereas most people, when they cock their wrist, they're also creating that angle, but because the wrist is going into radial deviation, it will simultaneously go into extension.
Perfect. So the more you hinge this way, the more you're going to cup. The more you unhinge relative to that, the more you'd be flat to bowed.
You're able to go flat to bowed. Yes.
Perfect. 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 I see Donald Trump message retracted. Okay. What's the easiest drill find? So hopefully that helps in terms of that explanation. Whew, we got to go faster. Side bended impact and post impact. Best drills.
What club are we hitting? Are we chipping a ball? Because we might be bent the other direction.
Yep. Yeah, true.
Or are we driving the ball? Where if we're driving it, then I'd say, okay, whatever. Put the hand on the right knee and turn your pelvis. And there's side bend for a driver.
That's a really easy one that I've never done before. So if I take my setup and I put my hand about even with my knee, right, and turn my pelvis towards the target, there's side bend
for the driver.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hit a chip shot like that though.
That's right. Yeah. And we've talked about videos and you'll see some of the videos we go how that changes as the club changes wedge to iron to driver. We've done some videos in the past about sensations of getting the distance between the hip and the shoulder shorter, right? We've even talked a little bit in the past for some of you guys that have so much of a this sensation here to get the distance between the hip and the shoulder shorter, even by feeling like the trail hip raises as your right shoulder goes down. You feel like a little bit of sort of a crunch in your oblique from there. That's a good feel for a lot of people. You can do sort of club across your shoulders to feel that on the way down. You can feel like your right shoulder goes down and forward. We just did a video this week about that. So there's a lot of different feels with that, but I like that hand right in the leg. All right, I'm gonna try and rapid through more of these here.
You do the leg.
You're gonna head out? Thank you, sir.
You
got it, absolutely.
Thanks.
We'll chat after we're done here.
Again.
Thank you, sir. So, are you familiar with a split grip hockey slap shot drill? If yes, can you talk your opinion about this drill and helping with using the lower body? Thanks. Using the lower body to dominate the downswing and ultimately reduce slipping. Are you familiar with the split grip hockey slap shot drill? Yes, I am. Can you talk about your opinion about this drill in helping with using the lower body to dominate the downswing? Yeah, so I think it's a good drill. I think it can produce good feels. If I took my normal setup position, took my right hand off and put it more towards the middle part of the shaft, and I take my setup from here and I learn how to make some motions right, and hit some shots. And automatically what that feels to me, like if I'm hitting a slap shot, is my lead hand's more forward, my lead hand's more bowed, I have more shaft lean. Even if I go a little bit shorter, like my normal grip, right hand to the end of the grip here, and what I feel in space is sort of less arm and hand action, which encourages me to have more body motion and sort of learn how to pivot. So any of the drills you do that make you make a swing with less arms and hands are going to encourage more body. That's just as simple as it is. So a hockey split grip would be one of those. An impact snap would be one of those. A ball between the arms, tour striker would be one of those. All of those would be one of those. Mayor, this is his. All of those would be one of those. Different ways there. Let's see here. What's the easiest way to find? Ray, how can I believe that club release low left won't produce low and left shot? It all depends on where the face is relative to that. So you got a couple variables there, Ray. One, when you feel low left here, is it actually low left is A, or does it just feel like that? Assuming the club exits low left, it also depends on the angle that it took into the ball. So if I hit a ball and I was here and I made a swing and the club came from low and inside to the ball, and then I exited low left, well, the ball came low inside, so the ball is not going to launch low left. If I make a swing where the club head comes high and outside and finishes low left, then of course it's going low left. So we have feels versus real. We have where is it approaching the ball. And then we also have where's the face relative to it. If I have a club exit low left on the way through, which should be happening mostly via body rotation, if my face stays kind of sort of square to the arc of that, the ball should deflect off the face relatively good. If the face is too shut from there, then of course it will go low left. So there's multiple variables there, Ray. I really have to see you doing it and see if it's a feel or real thing, and sort of the other, how you get there depends. Par 3 course, tee off with a tee or without? I would tee off with a tee always, whenever you can. Always with a tee. Robert, good afternoon. Team Cogorno and Marty. Hello, hello. He just left. You missed him. Good dude, Marty. Good guy, Marty. We like Marty. I've been contacting the group as much. Oh, ground. Hello. I've been contacting the ground as much 6 inches behind the ball when chipping. Is this a result of my steepness and over the top tendency or failure to rotate? Good news for you, Robert, as a member of CogornoGolf.com. You can post your chipping videos in the Facebook group, and I will see your videos and literally in 2 seconds tell you exactly why you're doing that. You could be hitting the ball. The reality is there's too many variables. You might have too much access tilt at address, and that's causing you to hit behind the ball. You might be aimed too far to the right. That's causing you to hit behind the ball. You might be too far under plane during your backswing, and that's causing you to hit behind the ball. You might be tilting away from the target during your downswing, and that's causing you to hit behind the ball. You might have too much weight on your right side, and that's causing you to hit behind the ball. You might release too early, and that's caused chest, where your chest, I mean, there's just too many variables. But seriously, if you post a video, I will tell you in like literally 30 seconds. So your next sort of swing update, from now, post your chipping videos in there along with your swing. For your swing pattern, right, we're talking, hey, your swing pattern is too far this way. So if you listen earlier to what we talked about the wrist angles, Robert and I posted those wrist angle videos for you. You need to feel from here like you're not going here. You need to feel like you're going this way with the club. Like you're sort of unhinging and flexing this way, unhinging and flexing this way, unhinging and flexing this way on the way down like that. When you do that and you post your updated videos with that, I'll check out your chipping. Paula, hello, hello, hello. Killer tips, loving the collab. Thank you, Paula. Lawrence, when do you start to put pressure into your trail foot? So when you're taking your normal setup position, I'd say at setup, you're looking to be about 50-50 as a stock model. You're going to be shifting pressure into your trail foot immediately when you go back. So it's not like get to your takeaway, then shift. There should be pressure shifting. A lot of players actually push into the left and then into the right, but there'll be a pressure shifting gradually during the backswing all the way to the top, and then it's gradually working back to the left throughout the entire downswing. So it happens right away on the way back. When do you start to put pressure in your trail foot? Yeah, same thing. Jeff, rotating lead leg femur at start of downswing is very unnatural feeling. Any tips on making it easier to execute? No. I would put a video in front of yourself and record it and see what it actually does. Anything new is awkward, right? It doesn't matter what the movement is. So it's not specific to your femur bone. If you don't normally do that, I would just put a video on, record it. For me, when I make my normal backswing, I tend to go very vertical. So for me to go normal like this feels like I'm going like this. That feels very unnatural. There's no real way around that. Especially, Jeff, if you've been on the downswing, if you normally go internal with your lead leg, like this way instead of this way, if you normally do this or have a slide motion, this is going to feel, as you work down, very foreign. I would say it's easier to do if you keep the left part of your pelvis or your left hip lower in transition. So Jeremy, pay attention. It's easier to do if your left hip stays lower as your femur bone goes down. Here's my left hip lower, here's my here's my femur bone, and then I extend up and forward. If I go like this and my left hip goes up right away, my femur bone doesn't kick out. So keeping your left hip lower and increasing the bend in your leg will make that easier. You can't see him, but Jeremy's back there working that move. Left hand. The drill putting the club in putting the club, I'm having a hard time. Putting the club in the navel for one-piece takeaway for more rotation, is that good to do? Yes, I think that's good for the backswing. Ultimately, the drill's irrelevant. The feels are irrelevant. What's relevant is when you do them and you record them, do you hit the spots? What you want to do is get your club head in line with your hands at first parallel with the face tilted down. If doing this, when you do it, helps you do that. So if you do this here and you put it in your belly button, it won't let you hinge, but you'll get a sensation of the chest rotation early, which Marty's a big fan of, we found out today. From here to here, you need to add a little bit of hinge to get the club in line with the hands, right? So I'm cool with this, but then you got to kind of take it off and add hinge. So when you're really doing it, you'll feel a little early chest turn and kind of belly button turn with a slight amount of hinge to get the club in line. So you have to record yourself from down the line, and then that's ultimately the deal. Why is draw better than fade? I seem to have a lot more control inside 150 with a fade. Usually you will have a lot more control with a fade. The draw is normally better because you can get more ball speed, hit the ball higher and farther. The mechanics that are involved with producing a draw, which includes shallowing a club, right, allow you to pivot easier and allow you to produce a shallower angle of attack. So the reason it's better for a draw is you can have a shallow angle of attack with the handle forward. So you hit a ball with a low angle of attack, but still maintain compression and dynamic loft is low. But as you kind of progress in skill, a fade pattern generally is easier to control. Like I would hit a fade pattern off a tee now compared to a draw because it's less controllable. When I hit my draw really good and hard, I can hit it farther, but now it's at a point where it's less control. So that's how I'd kind of approach that. Hi, Eric, Mary, and Marty. Hello. Love my Gen 1 impact snap in both of your YouTube stations. Thank you very much. This is our first day filming with Marty, and he's a super good guy, and a good coach. He was really easy to do videos with.
More coaches coming.
Nicholas, where can I get the Impact Snap discount code, and what is it? Did you say EC Golf?
Yes, and they can go to impactsnap.com. It is evidently active now.
Impactsnap.com. I think they're like literally putting that up as we speak.
Yeah.
EC Golf should get you a discount code of some form. Mark, I saw recently that the left hand pinky finger and right hand index finger should be pressure points for my grip. Is that true? Most people, the pressure points are going to reside in the last 2 to 3 fingers of your left hand. So pinky, ring, and middle finger for most people. And then sort of the middle 2 fingers of your right hand. I would say that'd be normal. Some people feel the right index finger as a trigger. So it's sort of bone there in my finger. I don't know what that is. On the club, the middle 2 fingers here, and then the last 2 to 3. Now that's like super generic. I mean, I don't think about any of that at all, right? And so it's not like something you have to do, but that would be what most people would say from there. Can you please talk about lowering driver spin with a positive angle attack? Most say to de-loft. That seems hard and weird. So the reality is you need a lot of speed to be able to de-loft the driver and hit up and carry the ball far enough with a low amount of spin where it works. If your club head speed's lower, you need more dynamic loft here and enough spin to have the ball get high enough to carry far enough. Now there's a bunch of math involved there and it depends on your club head speed. If you swing 120, right, or 110, 15, you can afford to get the handle a little bit more forward, have the face very neutral, extend all the body segments, let the hands work up and left past impact, and keep the dynamic loft low and have a lot of speed. If not, okay, from there, you don't want to have the handle as far forward because you're not going to hit it anywhere. You want to have the handle throwing a little bit more, right? So a little bit more of a release, depending upon your grip pattern, you might have some arm rotation, a little bit more release as you push up and through. So you need a lot of speed to be able to do that. How can you have a positive angle of attack and de-loft the club? You need the handle forward, which means you need a lot of speed. So unless you have a lot of speed, I wouldn't do that. You can, even if you have lower speed, hit up on the ball, if you hit up on the ball, hit it in the middle or higher on the face and keep the spin rates neutral enough and work with the fitter, where that shouldn't be a problem. But de-lofting only if you have a lot of speed. Brad, I get really quick in transition at the top. Is there a thought to or drill to promote a smoother transition? So one, I would say just consciously thinking like slower, right? So like record yourself. If you think you go too fast or too quick, go up to the top and make a downswing where you feel like you go as slow as humanly possible. Watch the video, realize it looks normal, and then go back in and be comfortable with that feeling because now you just saw it's normal. That would be part one, how I'd start. Part two from there would be you can do some drills where you go up to the top and actually pause at the top and then start working back down. So I would record yourself with a super slow swing, and then I would, from there, actually do some drills where you paused up. Sorry, guys, the guy's weed whacking in the back. Now we've got all kinds of noises here. George, I want to say that I love your channel. Great stuff, and you're a great educator. Thanks, George. I appreciate that. Larry, which would ensure a flat left wrist at the top of my backswing, showing 3 knuckles or 4 knuckles in my left hand grip? So which would ensure a flat left wrist at the top of my backswing, showing 3 knuckles, 4 knuckles in my left hand grip? So I'm not sure what you mean in terms of setup or top of backswing. So if I show the less knuckles I show at setup in terms of this here, so the weaker my grip is, the easier it is to have a flat left hand at the top, right? The stronger my grip is, so showing more knuckles at a setup, the more cupped my left hand is going to be at the top. So technically speaking, a weaker grip showing less knuckles at setup, if that's what you mean, will be easier to be flat, or you have to get more flat at the top. Got a big final end of season FedEx type event at the weekend and need to produce my best golf then. Any pre-round mental tips, visualizing the perfect round, any day tips, keep focus. So yeah, I would say the best thing for that is to put yourself in that environment as much as humanly possible, right? So like, yeah, mental wise, I would say learning some breathing, learning pre-shot routines, visualization will all help. Ultimately, the best way to learn and ensure good performance is to put yourself in that environment as much as humanly possible. And so anything as similar to that as you can get, where it sort of simulates the pressure of that event, and doing that throughout the year. So like maybe this year, if you have it this weekend, this is kind of late to prep for that, but maybe next year now you have a whole year, put yourself in those type of events as much as humanly possible. That's the real answer. Now, if you want like a pill answer, like something short and sweet and quick, it's pre-shot routine, it's breathing, it's getting present. If you search my name in on course and course management, you'll see some videos on that, but really you need to put yourself in that environment more often. Steve, how important is swing tempo? Is it different for different clubs, and how do you practice it? I don't think tempo is nearly as important as people say it is. I think if you have good mechanics, you can swing fast, slow, or medium and hit it solid. I think tempo and speed are 2 different things, right? I can swing at a smooth tempo, pedestrian, some might call it, and produce a lot of speed, or I can swing really hard and produce no speed. So it really just depends on that. I would say the more off or kind of worse your mechanics are, the more you need to feel kind of a smooth, neutral tempo to play well. The better mechanics, the less that's true. How do you practice tempo? What I would do is I'd go on the range, I'd grab a club you hit 150 yards, I'd hit it full swing 150, and then I'd try and hit it full swing 140, 130, 120, 10, 100, 90, 80, and then go back up to 150 and then try to do it 160, 170. Find what distance you had the best contact and control over. That's the tempo I would play with. You can, of course, do things like breathing, being present. You can do things like a count, right? 25. You can do a song in your head. So there's a lot of different stuff like that. But yeah, you can do an orange whip trainer, right? There's a lot of different options there. John, as a senior player, right-hand golfer, is it a good idea to flare out my right foot to help with getting a bigger turn and increase clutch? I would say in all likelihood, John, yes. Without seeing you swing, can't say with 100% certainty, but I would say in all likelihood, yes. Better to flare the foot and have it a little bit back if it helps you get more turn on the way back and ultimately more swing length and speed. Terry, as a kinesiologist, former physical ed teacher. I appreciate your instruction methods and how you simplify the aspects of the total golf swing. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that, my friend. George, great explanation of the Homer Kelly books. Thanks. You are welcome, from Marty. I'm unable to hit up on the driver without getting too under the plane and sometimes even hitting the ground well behind the ball. Any drills or feels to help hit up while staying closer to the plane? Yeah, I'd say, again, without seeing you, why are you under the plane? Could be backswing, could be directly downswing. Being under is good. The more under you are, or the more up you hit on a ball with a driver, right? So if I come down here like this, the more up I hit, the more up I hit, the more I need to swing to the right to even that path out. So let's say I hit up a whole bunch. The more up I hit, the more it moves my path to the left via angle of attack, which means I have to actively swing the club more to the right just to find neutral. If you're too under plane, you could do something simple like have a drill, which would be take a normal setup, put a ball and a tee, put an object behind you, right? If you search my name and, in fact, we're gonna do that because it's quicker. If you search my name and cure your hook, my name and cure your hook for good, there's a couple of drills you can put behind you. You can feel like the club works a little bit more in front of you on the way down. Maybe you have to feel like you rotate more, your left hip out of the way. You might have to feel like the club exits more left. It really depends on why it's happening. Jack, thanks for all the insights. Any tips on shouting the club on 30 to 40 yard pitch shots? I tend to dig too much, my misses. Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to do it. You can do that through angle of attack. You can do that through using the bounce. You can do that through swing direction. If you dig too much, where are we at here? If you dig too much with the leading edge this way, you want to learn how to use the bounce. So typically if you dig too much, the face is too square. Let's say the handle might be too far forward, like a full swing. You want to learn how to probably have the face open a little bit more at address, let the club head throw a little bit more, and get used to getting the back part of the club thudding the ground into the follow through, and let the club head sort of pass your hands a little bit more and create a thud. If you search my name in bounce, search my name in chipping versus pitching, and search my name in wedges, we had a wedge masterclass that's really good, and a couple of the videos on here that explain that in more detail. That'll kind of go through how to do that. That may have nothing to do with swing direction. Could just be, could be a lot of different factors. So I would check those wedge videos. Do you recommend zero swing thoughts regardless of handicap? Absolutely not. If your zero swing thought swing produces shitty shots, then you need to think about something. Can you tell me shaft lean drills? Search my name and shaft lean, and you'll see all that in detail. Hey, Eric, I'm starting to shallow out my club in transition, but now my low point is slightly behind the ball. Travis, make sure that you have enough rotation of everything to move the handle forward first. If it's still an issue, work from there. Add body rotation, try that first, and then work from there. Mark, should you shift weight on shortish pitch shots? Yes. So if I'm hitting a little pitch shot here like this, let's say I'm starting 50-50 or even 60-40. On my way back, I don't like a shift to the right. I want my spine, my shirt buttons at least on or forward of it. A lot of good chippers and pitchers stay on the ball, and some of them, their head even moves forward a little. So they even go this way. They get their left shoulder lower and forward and steeper, and then they're this way. So for me, let's say I'm 60-40 on my left. I'm still 60-40. I might even be 65-35 on my left, and then I'm more on my left on the way through. So I'll go ahead and do one. So I'm kind of here and there in sort of a stock chip shot. So I'm a little more left at address, not drastic. I stay left and I go farther left. Thanks for great info. You're very much welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome again. It's not, yeah, good. That's good. Arms on top of the chest or closer to the sides. So when I take my setup position, my arms are in front of me, right? They're not on me, like I'm not on my pecs, they're in front of me this way. As I make my backswing, I like to have the hands in line with the right pec, right bicep. So my lead arm is on my bicep. My trail arm is not on my side at all. Okay, it's here neutral. I go up to the top over my shoulder. My lead arm is still on my pec. My trail elbow ideally is still in front of me some amount. As I work back down, I get back in front of my pec, and then I'm back in front of my bicep. My arms, it's not as simple as saying like, my arms are just in front of me the whole time. Kind of, right? But there's a lot of micro in there. So they're kind of up and in, right on the way back, down and out, and then back up and in. So I guess in front of you, arms on top of the chest or closer to the sides. I'm not sure how to answer that. So my arms are in front of me and on my sides, right? So if I stood like this, are my arms on my chest or on my side? I'd say they're on my side, right? When I put a club in my hands go more forward. So now they're on my side and on my chest. When I go up, my arms are still on my side, but now they're in front of my chest. I come back down, they're still on my side and in front of my chest. So I'm not sure how to answer that, but maybe that helps there. What are your thoughts on Jordan Spieth's wrist conditions and release pattern for an amateur? I think it's great. I think the moral of the story is the weaker your left hand, like a Jordan Spieth or John Rahm, the more you have to flex to square the face up. So if I were to do a normal kind of release, or let's say backswing here, if I had a strong grip, right? Let's say I had a strong grip like this, I can have a cupped left hand and still have a square face. If I have a weak grip and I have that same cupped wrist condition, my face is too open, I need to curl that under to have the face square. That also applies for here. Look at my left wrist. So if I have a super weak grip, you got to go full John Rahm. If I got a strong grip, I can go like this and have the handle forward. So the stronger the grip, the more cupped you can be, and you don't need as much supination or flexion. The weaker, the more flexion. All right, a couple more here quick. Suggestion for chunking wedge shots, guessing it's a flip. I would watch all of my wedge videos first and then work from there. I would make sure your setup and swing plane are good. So the first thing I do if you're chunking chip shots is make sure the club head's on plane or outside the plane on the way back. Make sure that you turn your chest on the way through. Make sure the club's on plane and turn your chest, and then it could be setup related from there. What are your opinion of impact training tool? I would understand if you decline to respond. However, it's called professional courtesy. I don't know what you mean, Brian, but so I'm gonna skip the next one. Hit most shots just right of center towards hosel. What gives? Good ball flight. No idea, Joey. Have to see your swing video. Could be too many things. What do I do on wet and unranked bunker conditions? The wetter or the more compact the sand is, the closer to the ball you have to hit and potentially open the face less. The wetter or more compact the sand, hit closer to the ball and potentially open the face less with less bounce. And then back here, I'm finally hitting in the net, screw up my golf game. What kind of drills and practice can I do hitting into a net in my backyard? I find practicing hitting into a net screwed my golf game and not getting the distance in flight. Then don't hit into a net anymore. Is building lag really important? What are the benefits and how long do you have to train good lag? Yeah, lag, it depends on how you would define that, what you're looking to do with it. If you search my name and impact, search my name and wrist angles, compression, stuff like that, I explain all of that in detail on the videos. Okay, last one, Steven. So do not place your left arm on top of your left pec at setup, more on the side. So if I take my normal setup position from here, I can have my left arm in varying places, depends on my grip. So the stronger my grip is, normally my arm's gonna be a little bit more this way. The weaker my grip is, normally my arm's gonna be a little bit more under. I would start with it relatively neutral. There is no black and white answer that Steven, where I would say to you, place your left arm on your pec for every golfer, period. I also would not say place your arm on your side. Either of those can work. There's different patterns, different grips, different wrist angles. So that one's a little bit different. So I'm going to wrap that up there. Thank you guys again for another Monday night. For those of you that saw before the impact, did he leave these? Marty was here, Marty Nowicki, who has the impact snap training aid for the wrist angles. I genuinely really like this. I was able to, when we were doing our videos, rehearse these, feel the same wrist angles I would normally would, and be able to feel that really easily with a golf club. A lot of the training aids that I use like this, I can't transfer super well, ones that I actually can't hit a ball with, but this one gave me really, really awesome feedback. So I'm interested to know for you guys, in the videos that we do with the impact snap coming up, comment below those videos on if you like it or not and how you use it. And if not, I would check this out. If you're struggling with contact, I would check this out. So thanks to Marty. For those of you, again, if I said anything about seeing your swing on video, I meant that. That is really the best way I can help you, is to see you in person or see your swing on video. So check out cogornogolf.com. And that's all we have. We'll do this again next Monday. Thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you next week. Oh, thank you.